Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. I'm going to start this video with a disclaimer that I did just take Harley and Diesel, my two dogs, for a walk. By the way, Harley and Diesel are half Maltese, half Bichon, and they're almost 17 years old. But that might be why I look a little bit red. I feel like I look red today, and Harley's on the bed behind me because he's too hot sitting on my lap, so at some point in the middle of this I may need to pause it and go get him because he might start crying, and so if this looks a little bit choppy in the middle, that's why. But today's a very important day for me, so that's actually what I'm going to talk about today, which is the fact that I'm getting the results for my neuropsychological evaluation, why am I getting one of those? So I talked a little bit about my, the mental health challenges and realizations that I had while living in Finland, and really, I think once I came back from Finland, I felt much more committed to working through and figuring out what all these things are. I did talk in that video about having received already a BPD diagnosis, and I would actually like to do a video where I talk about how I think that BPD and bipolar are very different. Even though they can present externally to the world similarly, I personally feel like when I read bipolar symptoms, they don't, describe my internal experience at all, really. And I mean, the brief overview of that is just, with BPD, your mood swings are linked to a trigger, whereas with bipolar, it's more chemical. And fun fact, one of the ways that they can tell which one it is, because externally, again, it presents very similarly, is if when you're having an episode and you're given lithium, does it bring you down or not? Because if it does, it's bipolar. If not, it's BPD. Anyway, I digress from that. But one of the reasons why I decided to get a neuropsych eval, or I was encouraged to get a neuropsych eval from a psychiatric perspective, from my psychiatrist, is because I was like, okay, I think I have ADHD, seeking treatment, all of that. And in order for me to try stimulants, because they thought that, there's a really big issue now with people just trying to get ADHD stimulants, like Adderall and those types of drugs, prescriptions, whatever, that, me coming in and being like, oh, okay, I would like to try these to treat my ADHD. It's like they just, think, I don't know, that I'm going to take them and sell them. I have no idea what they think, honestly. But this is like a real problem in the US. I'm not sure how much people know about this, but this is actually a nice side tangent. That, the US is so competitive in terms of academics that Adderall is pretty common on college campuses because of people trying to, I guess, simultaneously like party and be very involved and also have good grades. So people will just get illegally prescribed Adderall to be able to perform better, which, is not really exactly what I'm feeling. It's more of just, I felt like I was going to struggle to work full-time 9 to 5, which I'm going to be honest, some days it is a struggle. Maybe everybody feels that way. I don't actually know. But that was a lot of the incentive that I had when I was like, okay, how do I treat my ADHD? And so the neuropsych eval today is going to tell me if I actually have ADHD or not. So we're going to see. And if so, then I can talk more about that later. But I want to talk about what is a neuropsych eval, or neuropsychological evaluation. Is the long form, or what do they do at neuropsych evals? Because before I got a neuropsych eval, I felt like there was not a lot of information on the internet that told me, like, what do they do at it? Like, what are the tests? What do they look like? So I want to talk about everything that I can recall, even though I got this done like 2 months ago. And again, this is just the, debrief to see like what's really going on, aside from BPD potentially. I mean, well, that one is confirmed with a psychiatrist. One of the things I think that actually is worth mentioning about BPD that kind of sucks is it's not really easily treatable by medication. So, like, it can help, but it's not going to, like, cure it or, really treat it. I think that therapy and DBT, dialectic behavioral therapy, and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, can be more effective treatments. That's my opinion, my personal viewpoint on that, having kind of worked with both of those. Okay, that might be Harley. One moment, please. Okay, now I have Harley, so we're going to continue. Harley's on my lap. Okay, so the things that you do in a neuropsych eval. So first you're going to walk in and it's going to be like, well, why are you here? Who referred you here? What exactly are you looking to get out of this? And I was like, yeah, why am I here aside from just wanting to understand my brain better? Oh, right. I want to see if I actually have ADHD. And I expressed that one of the issues I had is that, I'm very high functioning and I've accomplished a lot and I have a master's degree and I lived in another country alone. And these are all reasons why the first psychiatrist was like, you couldn't have ADHD because somebody with ADHD couldn't do those things. And I'm just thinking like, dude, I honestly wanted a break from living with my family. So that's why I went and did some of the stuff. That's very transparent. Before I wanted to start thinking about houses like I am now and all these other things, I was like, Finland 2 years, nice. Excellent opportunity to be independent and alone and far away from everything and everyone I know. I mean, that really teaches you a lot about yourself, because you're not like so worried about how what you do impacts other people because they're not there. So I actually do advocate for people going and spending some time alone somewhere if you really want to know like who you are. Okay, anyway, so back to like what do they do when I go to the neuropsych eval? Well, first off, you have to go through your whole history, and it's like, yeah, like what kind of psychological issues have you had in the past? Like, have you gone to therapy? Have you gone to a psychiatrist? That kind of stuff. And then, what else has happened in your life? It's like, I grew up in Maryland, and then I moved to New Jersey. My parents got divorced, and these are all the actors in my current life, family members and all of that. Kind of what things were hard for you. Did you have any issues in school growing up? If so, what were they? Like for me, one of the things I used to get in trouble for this all the time was I had a very hard time focusing during class, and I still can't focus during things if I'm being honest. Like I have to do two things at once, which I know they say you can't actually focus on two things at once, but it's sort of how I regulate my attention, that I have to be, simultaneously working on a couple things. And I switch back and forth between them rapidly. That's technically what you do. So, I would like have a hard time focusing in like one class, and then I would start doing homework under the table for another class. And I would actually, the classes where I had an easier time, I would pay less attention. The classes where I had a harder time, I would try to pay more attention. So like I had a hard time in math and Spanish class. So I would do my math homework under the desk at Spanish class, and I would repeatedly get yelled at. And then I just tried to hide it better because it was just too hard for me to try to regulate my attention another way. If I had been taking medication, would that have been different? Maybe, I don't know. Obviously there are side effects that come with medication. I did try taking Strattera, and yeah, it made me sleep a lot, and I kind of didn't like that because I feel like I already sleep a lot, and I want to be productive more often. That's very American, I know. So anyway, I'm not even sure that medication is what I want to get out of the neuropsych eval at this point, because I feel like I've adjusted back to my American life, even though it took me some months. So yeah, maybe it's not the goal, but the goal is to understand my brain better. So yeah, you'll talk about your childhood, like what are some difficult things that you went through. Okay, great. Now we're having an issue with the other dog. Okay, I may need to attend to that. One moment, please. Yeah, so I guess the dogs just don't want me to record today. That's fine. Whatever. Okay. So the different tests that you're going to take, in addition to, first we talk about your backstory. Okay. And I came in there and I was like, okay, I was diagnosed with BPD. And then they're going to give you a personality assessment inventory, which is like 300 questions. That was one of the last things that I did, and that was related to that. And so I also expressed like, I always knew something was wrong with me from a young age, or I was just different, or like I couldn't socialize well, and like I thought I was autistic. And then she was like, you could have a nonverbal learning disability, which is not exactly the same thing as autism. I'm gonna be very honest, I still don't understand it that well, but I start reading about it. I'm like, yeah, I identify with a lot of this stuff. Like I always had an issue with like telling my right and left apart, and I always go like this, left. And I remember when I first learned about this in first grade, they were like, one of them makes an L, and I was like, but they both make L's. No, they don't, because one of them is backwards. But yeah, so there were those kinds of issues. Okay. So in addition to the personality inventory, a lot of it is focused on memory retention. So like long-term versus short-term memory, and they'll flash like certain, like there was like a whole list that you had to go through. Oh, and then okay, there were so many things. Okay. All right. Where can I start? So there was an address I had to memorize, and there was the difference between, the recall memory, like which of these is the correct one, versus like repeat the thing back to me. And you had to do that several times, and then you had to switch between not just an address, but then also a set of pill taking instructions was the other one specifically. And then there was also a list of items, and so all like simultaneously 3 of these things. It was like you were kind of juggling between them, because again, it's like short-term versus long-term working memory and all this stuff. Also not a memory expert, but yeah, this is how it was going. And it was like a list of items, and then you had to be like, well, which of those was in the list, or like repeat back as many as you could. It was also funny because there was a time frame where it was like, list as many male names as you can think of in a minute, and then I thought they were going to do it for female names, but they didn't. I was like, crap, because after the male names, I was like, I only was doing English ones, but like all the names that were coming to me were Russian male names or Finnish male names, because spending 2 years in Finland, I'm thinking primarily about Finnish males. I mean, like, you know, those names are in my mind more readily, maybe. Even though I work with Americans now. I don't know. That's just how it is. So I kind of like froze in the middle of that. Yeah, I was like, had 10 of them, and I was like, or then you have to name as many sports as you can think of in a minute, or as many animals as you can think of in a minute. So a lot of like listing what is coming to your mind. Okay. So that's, yeah, I guess some sort of association thing. Another thing is there were these pictures where it was like you would have like, okay, well, first off, you were given these cubes that had either like a white face, a red face, or a half red, half white face, like cut down the middle like a triangle. And then you had a picture in front of you, and you had to take a set of cubes and recreate the picture that was in front of you, and it was timed. And then there were also other ones that were timed where it was like, you know, here's a row of images, and then here's the primary image, and then you have to select whether that primary image is there and check it off, and if it's not, then like press select, you know, circle the 0 1, or, you know, identify the one that says there is no image here. And then you try to get through as many of those as you can. So a lot of it is speed oriented, because I guess if you are slow with processing, then that's going to come up in these. And it's like, you know, try your best. And there was another one where it's like I had to trace it by, it was like number order first, and then it was some sort of other order, and then it was like, oh, yes, like number order 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it was like A, B, C, D, and then there was one where it was like 1A, 2B, 3C, and yeah, that one was hard. But that's a multitasking test, apparently. Trying to think what other ones. Okay, I guess one more puppy break. Sorry, hold on. Okay, great. That break gave me more time to remember more of the things that I did. So there was one section where it was asking you like common sense questions. There's sort of a joke that I had with my friend for a while, which was, okay, well, actually, before I say that, I'm gonna say like what some of the questions were. It's like, what is water comprised of? Like, you know, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. And it was like, who, like, I don't even know what, they were like things that everybody should have learned at some point in school. And one of the jokes I have with my friend is, who was the Prime Minister of England during World War II? Because we were both like, oh my gosh, who was it? Okay, the answer is Winston Churchill. But I, for some reason, didn't know that. So kind of what happened to me was, there were a couple of subjects they really drilled, and we would learn the same thing over and over and over and over again. And one of them was U.S. history. So I kind of got so bored with U.S. history that I was like, you know what? I don't want to remember this anymore, because it's boring at this point. Like, it's just overkill. And the Holocaust was one of those things. And actually, I do think the Holocaust is important to learn about, but like every single year, like I was like, why didn't we learn about like the Rwandan genocide or some other sort of Holocaust-like things aside from just, you know, the Holocaust? I don't know. And I don't know why they do it over and over, but that's how it is. You know, U.S. history is really not that long. And there was only 1 year in high school where we did world history that I can remember. You used to do your state's history, I think, when you were very young, but I came to New Jersey after that, so I didn't actually learn New Jersey history. But I learned U.S. history over and over again for 3 years. Maybe 5. Okay, so the question was something like, who was the president during the Civil War? And I looked it up, and I still don't remember. Anyway, that's how disinteresting that fact is to me. So yes, maybe this is the, like, Americans are stupid thing showing, but, like, I just don't care about the information, so I don't know it. Okay, anyway, they asked you those kinds of things, and then you kind of realize that you max out at your level, is the way I would put it, because there comes a certain point where you're getting all the questions right, and you know you're getting the questions right, and then she just stops asking you questions, and you're like, okay, I, like, hit the max level. And I think part of this is an IQ test also, so we'll see about that. I don't know. I don't, like, really think my IQ is that high, honestly. I mean, I feel like I know some pretty smart people, and I'm like, yeah, that's not how my brain works. I always say I just work hard, and that's how I get things that I want. But, yeah, I mean, IQ apparently is disputed anyway. I don't know. I haven't done that much research on it, but I think that's part of the test, so we'll see if it is or not. Okay, so in addition to that, there were also these attentive things you had to do where there was a sound one, and then there was a visual one. In one of them, it was like some sort of order that things would flash at you on the screen, and then you had to hit the space bar when whatever order of events occurred. And it's the same thing with the listening one. It was like, there were two different noises that it made, and then only when one of the noises was made, you press the space bar. That one I felt like was easy, but then the flashing one, I always am like, I have a trigger finger, and I just like hit things too fast by accident because I'm anticipating something. Sometimes it doesn't happen. I do this a lot, like when I'm texting, and I'll just send a lot of typos. So yeah, I remember telling the evaluator, I'm like, I think I did really bad on that one. She's like, oh, well, everybody thinks they do bad on that one. You couldn't have done so bad on it. And then she looks at my results and she's like, actually, you did do kind of bad on that one. And I was like, that makes sense because I'm not very hands-eye coordinated. So key part of that, eye coordinated. Yeah. Okay. Now that's actually everything that I can remember from the evaluation. I cannot think of anything else. And the way that this worked for me, so I know a lot of evaluators will just have you do everything in a day, but to combat mental fatigue, she had me come in for 2 hours 3 times. So I did that for 3 weeks in a row. And to be honest, I was on a very long list and it took me a while to get this evaluation. So I was calling around to places in like September. I want to say they got back to me at the end of October, and then I scheduled my evaluation for June. So yeah. Now, do I recommend that people get one? That's up to you. And I'll see after I get my results. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that. Or what I want to talk about from them, because I think that could be interesting. But, for me, I think that learning about myself and my brain, Harley, no, just kidding, I'm not learning about Harley. It's information that I'm going to take with me for the rest of my life that's going to continue to benefit me for the rest of my life. When other things come up and I start having other challenges later on, and, knowledge is power. Like, I do believe that. And the more that the more opportunities are presented to you and the more tools you have in your toolkit. So, I think it was part of an effort to understand myself better. I think that when I was in Finland, I became less focused on just surviving, which I regret to say that I'm much more back in that mindset now that I'm back in the US, and, my whole housing thing I talk about a lot, which is quite frankly distressing to me, if I'm going to be very honest here. So, I'm really focused on like earning money and figuring out where I'm going to live and all that. So, like, I don't have room to really think in my brain about, like, how does everything make me feel and, like, psychologically what's going on and all of those kinds of things. So, I'm always, like, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I was, like, moving up here in Finland, and now I'm, like, back down here. Yeah, which I guess goes back to why am I in the US if I'd rather be in Finland, and I already made a video on that, so you can go watch that if you want to know the answer. But yeah, so let's say I go back to Finland or go back to wherever where I start having these issues again, I can pull out my handy dandy neuropsych eval and be like, what's going on here? Let's think about this. So that's why I think it's a good thing to have. And then, again, if you're ever in a situation where you're like, okay, I'd like to, get medication for this. And, it really did take me a long time to come around to the idea of having medication and being like, like, oh, something's wrong with me and I have to take this. And then, I tried it and I was like, okay, this is like actually helpful and not a big deal. And there are plenty of people who take it and it helps them. And it's sort of like, if you can get help to treat a condition, why wouldn't you? So that's why I really advocate for, I think that there should be less stigma around people having mental health challenges. And I think it's widely acknowledged that the younger generation suffers from that a lot. Maybe technology is to blame. I think a lot of it's economics, but that's, what I focus on in my own mind. So, I think that I really wish that people, like, maybe I don't even know if it's a generational thing or in general, I wish that it could be less taboo to be able to talk very openly about this, and then not in an attention-seeking way, but in a, seeking to understand and support each other kind of way. And, that's why I make these videos, is that I hope that, some person will feel supported by whatever I'm saying, or maybe be able to identify with it or provide some level of comfort. And again, it's, having mental health challenges does not mean by any means that you cannot live a happy, productive, amazing life. It doesn't. I regularly think about how amazing my life has been and the opportunities that I've had, and I am incredibly appreciative for them. Obviously working on NASA was cool, getting the opportunity to be abroad, see so many places, meet so many people, learn a second language, like, don't limit yourself just because you have these kinds of challenges. But I think approaching them with curiosity, seeking to understand them, yourself, the challenges you have, the world around you, how those things all come together, Like, I think it can help you live your best life. Like, I think anybody can live their best life. Like, when you really think about it, a lot of it comes down to your attitude and your view on things rather than the actual scenario that's going on. And, don't get me wrong, there are certain challenging situations that can definitely exacerbate mental health challenges, like, death of a loved one is a huge one. I fortunately have never gone through that yet. Unfortunately, time only moves forward, and that happens to everyone, so, that's going to be a thing. But, my parents are divorced. That's obviously very traumatic for a child. That happened when I was young. Um, and, I think just like in general, like interpersonal conflict issues can always be distressing as well. Certain living situations. One time I lived with cockroaches and bed bugs. That was rough. Got out of there. So there are a lot of things that can be stressful. That's my point here. And, we all have to go through them, and there's nothing wrong with getting support when you need it. I guess that's everything that I'm trying to say today. Sorry, the dogs are being very fidgety today, even though they just got their walk. Okay, so I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this helped at least one person, and that it's interesting, and that if you are thinking about doing a neuropsych eval, that you know what to be prepared for. And again, I'm happy to talk more about maybe, okay, but like, I don't know what this is going to look like, what the actual results look like, and what you can get out of this evaluation. I did talk to one other girl whose boyfriend had done this, and what she told me, she's like, it tells you everything. Like, not like everything that's wrong with you, but everything that you're sort of suffering from. So it was like, in his particular one, it was like panic disorder, for instance, he didn't know he had, or like, OCD, whatever. Like, when I was younger, I had one therapist tell me I had OCPD, and then I, start reading things related to that, and I'm like, I don't really identify with this anymore. So I think it is something that, maybe can change. I don't know. I'm going to learn more about this today. But, I know that's just like a very thorough evaluation. It's like pages long, and it is a very important document that you should keep with you for the rest of your life. That's what I've been told. So, again, I hope that this information is valuable to at least one person out there. And, I believe everybody deserves to feel the best that they can. Everybody deserves to feel better. And, there's nothing wrong with having that desire and, taking the steps that you need to get the help that you need. And I'm happy that at some point I've finally been able to do it, but it took me a very long time to get here, and I'm happy I did. So again, I hope at least one person will take away from this that, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to seek the answers to, why do I feel like this? And, at first you may not always like the answer, but eventually you'll accept it. That's what DBT teaches you, radical acceptance. It's like you can't change things. It's like the saying, please give me the power to accept the things that I can't change. Because there's a lot that you can't change. And you're never really in control. It's another thing I was thinking about this morning in preparation for my videos, because I think about them again while I'm swimming. And it was like, yeah, you can do X, Y, and Z to try and give yourself the illusion of power or control, but at the end of the day, it can all be taken from you in the blink of an eye. Sometimes. I don't know. Okay, well, that's everything I have for today, and I hope it was interesting once again. And I'm thinking for my video tomorrow, because I was going to do this one today, but then I thought in honor of me getting the results today, I would do this video, because I was wanting to make this video for a while anyway. But tomorrow, I want to talk about Texas versus New Jersey and what life was like for me in each of those states. And then I'm also going on a vacation at the end of the week. I'm excited. So I'm going to take a little mini break towards the end of the week into a nice long weekend. And so you will just have to enjoy all of my old content. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. All right. So until my next video tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Bye.